Welcome to day 3 of our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. Our lesson today is entitled, All Is Vanity and a Striving After Wind. To give our passage its context, we'll be reading verses 12 through 18 of Ecclesiastes 1. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is but a striving after wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. There is a lot that can be learned from a breath. Consider when the doctor puts the stethoscope to your chest and asks you to take a deep breath and then exhale. The medical term for the use of a stethoscope is auscultation. He or she can ascertain such things as obstructions, inflammation, infections, fluid in the lungs, or asthma for starters. Sounds like rhonchi, crackles, wheezing, and stridor. They will listen to each lung in the front and then in the back to compare. These are indicators of such things as pneumonia, heart failure, COPD, asthma, bronchitis, or a foreign body in the airways. Such things will need further testing to confirm or eliminate possibilities. All this from the stethoscope in a single breath. If you're in law enforcement, a single breath can confirm if a driver has been drinking by the use of a breathalyzer that measures the amount of alcohol coming out of your lungs. We can tell other things about people by the way they breathe. Are they in pain? We may be able to tell by the shallow breaths that one takes. Emotions such as anger can change breathing patterns. A deep, sudden breath may indicate a person's change in thinking. Hyperventilation caused by panic attacks. There's a lot we can learn about people from a single breath. There are also some metaphorical lessons associated with the breath. James tells us in James 4:14, "Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes." That word for mist can mean a fog or an exhale from our lungs. Take a deep breath on a cold day and exhale out into that frigid air. How long does that exhaled mist stay in the air? Well, that's our lives comparatively. Job says of his longevity in Job 7:7, "Remember that my life is a breath." David says in Psalm 39:5, "Behold, you have made my days a few handbreadths, and my lifetime is as nothing before you. Surely all mankind stands as a mere breath." Solomon continues on with his melancholy tale of the woes of life as he has observed. The word of the day is vanity. 31 times in this book, Solomon will use that word vanity. 3 times he'll use the plural, vanities. The Hebrew word is hebel, emptiness or vanity. Figuratively, something transitory and unsatisfactory. It's from another root word which means to be in vain in act or expectation, specifically to lead astray. All is vanity and a striving after wind. These expectations we have that what we strive to accomplish and gain and ultimately find profit in are, as it were, like trying to catch the wind. You want to know what that is like to catch the wind? Take a clear glass jar and a top, and also a feather with you outside on a windy day. With the top off the jar and a feather inside, turn the mouth of the jar to the wind, and then quickly, with the feather still inside, put the lid on the jar and watch how long that feather continues to swirl in that jar. You've captured wind in that jar. But the moment you sealed it, what happened? Well, there you have it. Today's object lesson completed. Remember from our first lesson that God had endowed Solomon with wisdom. How much wisdom? We're told in chapter 3 and verse 12 of 1 Kings, "Behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before you, and none like you shall arise after you." And again in 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 29 through 31. "And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure, and breadth of mind like the sand of the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all people of the East, and all the wisdom of Egypt. For he was wiser than all other men, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, Calcol, and Darda, and the sons of Mahal, and his fame was in all the surrounding nations." Lord Bacon observes on this, "As the sand on the seashore encloses a great body of waters, so Solomon's mind contained an ocean of knowledge." By every way of measuring wisdom and knowledge and discretion, Solomon exceeded everyone who ever lived and ever would live. Shakespeare could not outright him. Einstein could not outthink him. No philosopher could out-philosophize him. Yet Solomon grasped that all his mind could comprehend was an unhappy business. Perhaps it was like the mathematician who was gifted enough to calculate all manner of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Sooner or later, one becomes weary of simply computing calculations. After all, it's all the same process. Solomon was given the gift of being able to discern, that is, figure out virtually anything that was put before him. Consider the Queen of Sheba in 1 Kings 10, verses 2 through 3. She came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue, with camels bearing spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she told him all that was on her mind. And Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing hidden from the king that he could not explain to her. One wonders if Solomon reasoned of the fate of man as he pertained to Adam and Eve, as they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Isn't that indeed the same of what Adam and Eve found there in the garden? Consider also that Solomon discovered that in all the wisdom, what is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. Verse 15. He could not cure the ills of mankind with wisdom. It may very well be that in his pursuit to guide men by wisdom, he fixed his mind upon the Proverbs, thereby showing the light of wisdom, discretion and knowledge, and the darkness of folly and vice. Solomon will visit this theme of considering wisdom again in the course of his writing. But he must first turn to the business of pleasure, for so is tomorrow's lesson. Have you sought the wisdom from above to guide your life? Have you found it to be a burden or a joy? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow for another lesson in the book of Ecclesiastes.